York County is so much more than just a stop for gas on I-80. 17 County is filled with unique individuals with unique stories just waiting to be told. Welcome to the 17 County Podcast with your host, Emily Perry.
This is 17 County Podcast. Thank you for tuning in for today's episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, and listen. This helps our podcast grow, and we thank you for your continued support. We would also like to take the time to thank our York County Development Corporation members, AgriProducts, Cornerstone Bank, Nebraska Public Power District, and Central Valley Ag. Without these great members, we wouldn't be able to focus on the growth and development of York County here at the YCDC. So thank you. Let's get to the podcast. Joining me today is Sheila Brugger. Sheila is a director of CFO systems here in York County. Pulled from their website directly, Sheila Brugger is a finance professional who thrives in environments that require a strategic, growth-based focus. She has an excellent track record of leading and developing teams to identify and execute action steps that improve processes. We are so excited to learn from you both professionally, because man, that sounds like a lot, and personally. So thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me, Emily. I'm really excited to share the story with everybody in York County.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take it all the way back to the beginning. Where are you from?
Yes, I am from KOOL Junction. I graduated there in 1991, and then I graduated from UNL in 1995, I think. I'm just thinking back. With a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting, I double majored in accounting and economics.
Okay.
So, yep. From there, then I went and I got my CPA certificate, and then I did a certified management accounting certificate, and then I did my master's.
Wow.
So
lots of school.
Lots of school.
Lots of learning.
Yep.
So what was your career path like for that? I mean, obviously you got all this education.
Right.
What were your actual jobs through that process?
Right. So I came right out of college and I started working in public accounting. I spent almost 3 years in public accounting, enough to get my certificate, and then I moved into private industry. And so in private industry, I really developed a niche for manufacturing. I remember working for manufacturing companies, and one of my first manufacturing jobs was actually in Kearney, Nebraska, because my husband and I lived there for 3 years while he works for Nebraska Power District. And they hired me to basically run their costing department, and I had no experience in costing at all. And in fact, I think I got a C in my costing class in college.
No.
So I thought, I need to learn really fast what this entails. So while I was at Baldwin Filters in Kearney, I actually got my CMA, which is Certified Management Accountant. And that's kind of like a mini MBA program where they take you through some specific learning to do with regards to management accounting. So a lot of emphasis on break-even analysis, financial statement analysis, gross profit, variable costs, fixed costs, and some of your more complicated ratios. Mm-hmm. So your leverage ratio, again, break-even analysis, quick ratio, just things that you can look at really fast on financial statements and understand how a company's doing, or more specifically, how they're trending.
Interesting.
So are they getting better, or are things getting worse? And if they're not getting better, they're getting worse, what do you need to look at to make it better? Yeah.
So how did you end up being involved in CFO systems, and did you start out as a director, or how did that look like?
Right. My husband and I moved back to York in, I think it was 2003. And then from there, I've had a number of jobs where I kind of developed this reputation in industry where I was a cleanup specialist.
Oh.
So I would get recruited by recruiters to come in, clean up something that was a mess, especially in manufacturing and anything to do with inventory. I had a lot of experience in that, and systems too. So whether it be ERP installations or installations that they had done and they didn't go well. And so they weren't posting correctly and the financial statements were wrong or misstated. So I developed this reputation as a cleanup specialist. So it was kind of in for about 3 years, clean up, train up. So train staff around me, hand off, and then go to my next one.
Interesting.
So I did that until basically about 2.5 years ago when I started with CFO Systems.
Okay.
And so I kind of reached a point at my current job at that time where they were in some uncertain financial situation and I was commuting and I thought it would be really nice not to commute. I've commuted for most of my career. It'd be really nice not to do that. And I reached out to Brett Freever at CFO Systems. I said, Brett, what's it take to do a job like this? I said, because I've been wanting to do this for about 5 or 6 years now. I wasn't sure I had enough experience. He goes, no, you need to do this. You'd be perfect because this is what you've done. And I said, yeah, good. So this would be really great to do because then I can just clean things up for a living, get a variety of clients, help local small businesses, and not have to commute anymore.
Which is huge.
It's huge. It's been big. I just love it so much because so one of the things that I noticed when I started with CFO Systems is before we start with CFO Systems as directors, we have to write our own business plan. Because we create our own entities. So I have my own LLC and I get work through CFO Systems, but I can also generate my own work.
Interesting. Okay.
So in order to start with them, you have to write your own business plan, which means how do you think you can grow your business in York County, Nebraska?
Yeah.
So this was actually really easy for me to write up because my husband and I lived in York County I grew up in McCool Junction. Obviously, we spent 3 years in Kearney, but otherwise I've been in York. And what I noticed in my career is within like a 90-mile radius of York, let's call it Seward West, there are a lot of companies really trying to grow. And they want to grow their business. And quite often they'll start out husband-wife team or just one spouse or the other. And they're hiring people, they're looking to hire people, but they need financial expertise, accounting, getting their systems up and running. How do they do e-commerce? But they have a hard time where they can't afford to hire somebody full-time or they can't find somebody with the breadth of expertise that they're looking for.
Yeah.
And so now you have CFO or controller for hire or contract. So I go in and I help people or businesses anywhere from 4 to 40 hours a week.
Wow.
Yeah, depending on the project or what's going on.
Yeah. So it can be as intense as the business needs it to be, really.
Right. Or more laid back and say, hey, just come in for a couple of hours and let's just work on this. And so we'll just incrementally work on things over time. I do not replace their tax accountant or their auditor. I don't do taxes and I don't do audit, but I can get everything prepared for you. So when it's time for your taxes and audit to be done, we're just basically handing things over and it's 90 to 95% complete.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Which is, once again, that's huge. I mean, preparing for audit and tax season is a big chore. I mean, it's a lot of work. So going into CFO Systems as a whole, well, can you explain a little bit about what the business setup is like? I know you kind of touched on how you have your own business and you can get business from CFO Systems, but it's kind of a different setup maybe. Can you explain how that works?
Yes. So CFO Systems is based out of Omaha, Nebraska. It was started by Brett Freever. He is originally from the Wayne area and comes from a long generation of farmers who went into accounting, and basically he had a career path very similar to me. And then back in 2004, he completed the sale of one of his companies that he was working for as a CFO. And he said, I think I could create this business where I just do this for multiple companies and they don't have to hire me full time and I can actually help them grow without costing them a full-time employee. So fast forward from 2004 now to 2023, we have 143 directors.
Wow.
Located around the United States. I think we have probably 40 directors just in Nebraska.
Wow.
A lot in Omaha. Myself, who lives in York, Nebraska, we just added a director from KOOL Junction, Stephanie Jacobson.
Okay.
Yep. And she's building her business around helping small, rural, critical access hospitals.
Oh.
Because she has a large background in healthcare.
Okay.
And she thinks there's a need for small hospitals who need to fill that gap for a finance professional.
Yeah.
Whether or not they can hire somebody or they need somebody with just a bit more experience than their local person can provide. So we're growing. And if we have any other accountants listening, we're looking to grow more, especially anybody with, let's call it 2 to 10 years of experience as a senior accountant.
Okay.
So,
Yes. Let us know. We can get you into contact.
Yes.
But if they wanted to contact you directly, how would they do so?
yes, they could just reach out to me. You can see my profile on the CFO Systems website, and they can reach out to me with my phone number. I'm also a member of the York Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty of places to find more information.
Yes.
You kind of talked about this as well, but diving a little bit deeper, you represent a lot of manufacturing industry. Mm-hmm. You have someone now that represents rural hospital industry, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word for it. But does this new accountant that you may or may not be looking for, is there a certain industry that you're targeting?
Not really.
Open?
We need somebody who just has a really good base in month-end close, bank reconciliations, and just balance sheet. A good balance sheet accountant.
Okay.
And so what it does is it kind of fills the gap of they can work on smaller projects, a little bit smaller projects with oversight from some of us that have a little bit more experience.
Right.
So we can come in and kind of guide them. And then it also gives our customers just a little bit cheaper price point.
Okay. Yeah. And for customers that you represent, is there usually a lifespan? Do you start when they're just, the 5 employees, and then is there a time that you step out and let them take it over, or how does that process work?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So what we like to do is break our business down into 3 sections. Fractional, which is they really want us for a set number of hours a week, and they kind of want to keep us, let's call it in perpetuity. So it's a permanent need that they want, and they're just not ready to hire. So the fractional interim, so they have just a set project or a gap that they want to fill. For example, they're in between hires.
Okay.
So if they do want to hire somebody, but they still need all the work to get done, and it's going to take them 3 months to hire, we can step in for however many hours they need on a weekly basis until they get their person hired, or project work. So we always say fractional, interim, or project. And project work usually surrounds some new initiative that the company's working on, whether it be a new system, a system cleanup, and sometimes it can be maybe they are doing a new round of financing with either investors or the bank, and they have to pull together a bunch of information, and they really just want to make sure it's clean in a really crisp format for analysis.
Okay, so you can represent any business who really has need.
Right. And it doesn't, I have a huge background in manufacturing, but the range of clients that I'm working on right now, I help an IT services company. I am working with a company based out of Florida, believe it or not, that manufactures organic fertilizer.
Interesting.
Yeah. A grain company and a youth sports company.
Wow.
So those are just a few examples of the companies that I'm working with right now. So it's a really wide variety of activities. And I think one of the things that's really been exciting about all of these is I've been with them most of them for over a year. And they just feel like they want to, keep me there because there's a lot of value that's being added.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like from what you're saying is yes, you're based out of York County, but you can expand outside of those region barriers or whatever. You're pretty flexible with that as well. I mean, Florida is quite a ways away. So that's definitely something to pay attention to. If you're a business outside of York County and you're looking for help, still reach out. That's not a factor that's going to end that relationship or anything like that. So definitely still reach out.
Well, and it's interesting. COVID changed a lot of things, at least in the accounting world, where because of Zoom or Teams or WebEx or whatever, you can meet with people, you can interact with them over the internet, get access to all their files, all their systems, all their information, and still add value. I think the really nice part about I really love this about being in central Nebraska, but networked with a company around the United States is people are coming to the Midwest for resources because of two things. We have a really strong work ethic. Mm-hmm. We have a high degree of trust. Yeah. So we're just going to tell you like it is. We're going to tell you the truth, just get it out there. And we don't have the price points of California or New York.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we can add just as much or way more value than they may be seeing in other areas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's pretty neat.
Yeah,
I love it.
It is, and it's so broad. I mean, you do a lot. Man, how are there enough hours in the day? But no, that's absolutely amazing.
At Cornerstone Bank, we are committed to providing you the best in banking products and service. With 46 locations throughout Nebraska, we are dedicated to serve you. Cornerstone Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
And you said you've been with CFO Systems for 2.5 years, give or take?
Just 2 years.
2 years.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, once again, reach out if you have any questions, but let's go into family life. You live in York County, right, as you had said. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about your family.
Yes. So my husband and I live here in York County. We've lived here since 2000. Since 2003, when we moved back from Kearney. I am the mother of 5 children, ranging in age from 24 to 16. So it's every 2 years from 24 to 16. My oldest actually lives in Florida. Mm-hmm. And my youngest goes to school in McCool Junction. And your husband, Trey, is one of her teachers.
Yes. Lucky her. But
yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. And you chose to come back to York County after leaving. What made that decision, I guess, easier? What solidified you wanting to come back?
So my husband works for Nebraska Public Power District. He's been there since he's been 20 years old. So his almost over 30-year career there.
Wow. Yeah.
Yes. And we really wanted to raise our family in a rural environment. So we live on an acreage. We have the whole gamut of cows, chickens, horses, dogs, cats, occasionally something else thrown in there for us to just stay occupied with. And it was really great for our kids growing up just to experience the responsibilities of an acreage and just the beautiful atmosphere of York, Nebraska.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys are pretty involved in the McCool area. Talk a little bit about that school system. I of course, know about it because my husband teaches there, but I'm a little bit biased. So it's always good to get outside perspective.
Yeah, the McCool school system is really interesting because it is one of the few schools that survived the consolidation era. Mm-hmm. But what's really interesting about McCool, when I graduated from there in 1991, I had a class of 13. And right now, the average class size is well over 20 to 24. Mm-hmm. It just depends. And I think what's happened with McCool is because all of the surrounding communities around McCool consolidated, you had kids driving farther to other schools for their consolidation. And so they were able to pick up all these kids around the edges that didn't want to drive farther or still wanted that really close-knit community. My family's from the McCool area. My maiden name is Clark. So my science teacher in high school, Mr. Germer, used to tell us in McCool that his favorite saying is, you can't swing a dead cat around McCool without hitting a Clark.
It sounds like Germer is still there, by the way, and he's still the same. So
yes.
Definitely something you'd
and
say.
And so it's just a very big community or a very, very big family, but also really strong community ties to the school.
Yes.
And the school does a really great job keeping itself going. So they have an amazing event, Evening with the Stars, every spring, where they're able to raise money for extra projects in the school and just through the donations of the community help keep putting improvements into the school.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think McCool is unique in the sense of the community is so supportive of the school that, I mean, games, everyone's there. Everyone knows all the students and supports them and cheers for them. And I mean, the community really does rally around the school.
They do, for sure. And it's really nice going to a school. I mean, we live in York, and we could be part of the school district too. All school districts, I think, in this area do a really great job. We just wanted one specifically where our kids could do the full range of activities without feeling like they had to get narrowed into one or two. And I think McCool does a really good job of filling that need.
Yeah, absolutely. I can agree with that. So we talked about, your husband and work and living in McCool, or not living in McCool, but going to school in McCool, living in the area. And then we also talked about your work, which is absolutely amazing. Let's break it down into what are you passionate about? What drives you to go to work and to do all the different things that you do?
Oh, that's a great question. I think one of the things that I'm passionate about is helping businesses get better. So I'm a big fan of the Gallup Strengths Profile.
Yes.
So of all the teams that I've managed, I've taken every single one of my teams through it so I can understand what they do best. But one of the key things in the Gallup Strengths Profile for me, the key strength that pops out is maximizer. So I am someone who is compelled to make things better and do things better and also develop people.
Yeah.
So if I see something in someone and I know it can be better and I know they have a strength for it, I'm compelled to keep developing it. And it's the same thing with businesses. If I see how they're doing things and they could be doing it better or more efficient, or we can organize their financial information in a way that is easier to look at and absorb, then I want that there for them. I like to tell people frequently that a head coach always needs a really good statistician. Because if the stats of your business or your team aren't accurate, how do you know how you're going to coach?
Wow.
And so that's always been my passion is I can step into that head coach role. And in fact, another one of my skills is command. So if somebody's not taking charge, I absolutely will. It's just going to happen. However, I really do want to provide people with that information for their businesses and help them to grow. So an example of that is frequently when I look at financial statements of companies in this area is a lot of times I will focus on their gross profit before I'll focus on net income. And net income is really important, but gross profit helps us understand how they're operating with their margins.
Okay.
And so we break it out between variable costs and fixed costs. And a lot of companies I see in this area, they're commingling those. And if they ever want to calculate their break even, it's hard to do it that way. So it's one of the first things I'll suggest to them is, hey, let's just make a couple changes to how you view your financial statements. And I think this is going to add some really quick value for you. The other thing that obviously is important for almost all small businesses is cash flow.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Is if you don't have a handle on your cash flow and how it projects out, especially if times get really tough. You want to grab a hold of that really fast and try to understand how you're going to manage it. And there are some really good tools that we use, putting together projections for companies where you can get a really accurate, probably 3 to 4 month view on this, and helping them understand how things are moving so they're not caught by surprise if times get tough or if business goes down. But it's equally important if they grow, because a lot of times they keep reinvesting, so that reinvestment can consume cash, and that over time they keep making it back by the improvements in their business. These are just some of the discussions that I have with small businesses in the area.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces.
There's a lot of moving pieces. Yeah. But with a little bit of work, you can get it into the financial statements into a format that's not complicated. And that's something that I'm a huge proponent of. If somebody's leading you down a path or things get more complicated, you want to stand back and ask yourself why. Because the beauty is simpler metrics in a format that's easy to read.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Man.
Anyway, it's just, I really do. When we focus on improvements, it's not about making it more complicated. Usually it's about making it simpler to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot. No, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I think it's really important for our businesses to realize you are out here. I mean, you're here, you're willing to help.
We're available. And one of the things that I tell businesses when I come in, I usually meet with them for an hour or two, no charge.
Wow.
And I just say, okay, tell me what's going on and what your problems are. And we'll walk through it. And then normally what I do is I give them 3 or 4 things and I say, here's what we would focus on. And then what we talk about is, what do you want to focus on? And then I'll come back and I say, okay, I think this is it's gonna take this many hours a week. And I've been recently helping a company locally that works a lot in construction, and they lost somebody about a year ago, and things just kind of got away from them. And so we just kind of had to go in and clean some things up. But the focus of the conversation was, usually what I say is, okay, let's look at your trended balance sheet and your trended income statement. And from that, I can just circle where your problems are at. Like, you can just see on those statements exactly what's not working correctly and then how you would propose to fix it. So we'll have that dialogue about what they think they need versus what I think I can provide. And then what we'll talk through is, how many hours a week do we want to spend on this? Because sometimes companies want to hit it really hard. And other times, others are going to want to spread it over time and just bite it off in small chunks. The company in Florida that I was working with, they actually grabbed me because of my background in inventory. They had an inventory system that they were using for a year, and they have actually 7 plants across the United States.
Wow.
They hadn't reconciled their inventory in well over a year. And they had a very expensive consulting company calculating what it should be for them, and that consulting company overvalued it to the tune of about 30%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was not good.
Yeah.
When I went on that job, they said, okay, we're going to hit it really hard for 2 to 3 weeks. And so I had about 30 hours in them each week for 2 to 3 weeks. And again, one of the things I proposed to them was, we could get really complicated about this, or we could simplify it. And we did. We simplified it. And I said, you're going to get the same result without going into too much complication. And since I've been CFO and controller for so many different companies, when I give them advice, I'm giving them advice as if I were their employee.
Yeah.
Not as a contractor coming in. Because I know what I would and wouldn't pay for. And if I were them, I wouldn't pay for wasteful activity.
Yeah.
So I don't want to give it to them.
Absolutely.
It has to be on point and very specific to their needs.
And I mean, that goes on to further prove not only your expertise, but you can be trusted. I mean, you're not going to charge them for nothing.
Right.
You're going to actually do the work and kind of put the ball in their court and see what they need.
Yeah.
Big, important, really important, and instilling those Nebraska values and traditions too in your business.
Right.
Man.
Anyway, it's been really good. I mean, at first when I started working with CFO System, I was worried that it would be hard for people in this area to grasp this. But I'd seen it in a couple other businesses that I was working for that we'd brought people in like this. And so I thought, okay, if we get the word out, it's going to make a lot of sense to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it really has resonated really well.
Yeah, and I think it is also really important for businesses to realize this does happen.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes things get a little bit messy and you just need a little bit extra help cleaning it up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not abnormal. It happens. So it's not a bad thing to have to reach out.
No, and it's not. And I mean, it's just life.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't predict if somebody's going to leave for another job. You can't predict if they're going to have a medical emergency.
Yeah.
You know, you may not understand if you've got all your cross training done when somebody retires, or you don't know how your business may turn with regards to just the economy.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's just life.
It is. And it's constantly changing, constantly adapting. And so your business needs to as well.
Right.
But yeah. Well, now we get to move on to, I don't know if I want to call it the fun part, but the fun part, the hot potato.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you a simple question, just the first thing that comes into your mind. If you need a little bit of time to think about it, so would I, so it's okay.
Okay.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Okay. I don't know if I agree, but tea is great too. Camper or hotel?
Hotel.
Okay, fair. TV or book?
Book.
I agree with that as well. Dogs or cats?
Both.
Okay. Kind of an animal person?
Yeah, we are definitely animal people, so they both have their place.
Fair enough.
And so I just can't pick. It's kind of like don't pick your favorite child, right?
Right.
Anyway, so I have an affinity for both cats and dogs.
Fair enough. Yes, fair enough. Calls, texts, or emails?
Oh, goodness. It depends.
Okay.
For me, it's very much situational. Mm-hmm. Maybe text if it's informal, calls if you really need to portray something, or if you really have to make sure you're getting a fair dialogue. And then emails is just more of a
the day-to-day.
FYI.
Yeah. Okay. Halloween or fall?
Fall.
I agree so much. Pumpkin patch or apple orchard?
Ooh, apple orchard.
Okay. Do you have a favorite?
A favorite apple orchard?
Yeah. There's not many around here.
Oh, so Bill Donovan's got he's just got the most beautiful orchard in York County, I think.
So we'll have to check that out.
Have you ever been there?
I have not, but I kind of want to go. I didn't know that there was one in York.
So my guess is he's got probably 40 trees.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. He's got crazy amount of apples. They're so good. And he's got a storage facility for them, too.
Really?
Yep.
Why did I not know about this? Okay, I'm going to have to do some research.
Between McCool and York. Yep.
Interesting. Well, thank you. Thank you for letting
You're
me
welcome.
know.
And he's passionate about apples, so.
So it's fun to talk to him about it, I'm sure.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Any parting words of wisdom for our listeners?
Goodness. I would say if you live in York County, we are all just really blessed to be here because it's an amazing place to raise a family, get to know your neighbors, be involved in the community, and just see things grow. If you're not from York County, you need to check it out.
Yeah.
And the reason why is it's got great people. We have a great work ethic. You're just going to get incredible people when they work for you from York County.
Yeah.
So make sure you keep it on your radar.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll echo everything you said. So 100%. Well, I think that is it. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat. If, once again, you are interested in learning more about CFO Systems or Sheila Brugger as a person, whatever the case may be, feel free to reach out and we can either connect you or you can go to the website and find her contact information and contact her directly. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. In closing, we would like to once again take the time to thank our members, the people that help us drive change. We would like to thank York State Bank, Henderson State Bank, York General, Meade Lumber Company Incorporated, and York News Times. And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in. Catch you next time.